up here, Mr. Dog. This is my dog, Mr. Boston. He's just coming to visit us right now. And I would like to end today's chat talking about why it is important to be doing these best ball drafts, especially if you're a sports gambler and you're spending money trying to beat the sports books. I think, in my opinion, if you do follow someone's channel like myself, approach these things logically and make good decisions, it's really, really going to pay off for you. Because when you're gambling against the sports book, they rake. They have a similar rake. They have an 11% rake on underdog, where that's just how they make their money, right? They got credit card fees and stuff to deal with as well. And they're running a pretty successful, massive business as far as I can tell. They're going to take their rake. The sports book is going to take their rake on an even bet. The difference is, in the sports book, you have to bet against highly efficient lines that have just gotten almost impossible to beat in the past 3 or 4 years with new analytics and I'm sure AI that they're using to set these lines, where after week 3 or 4, when they have all their data, it's going to be really tough to beat. You are playing against some real dummies when you are drafting in underdog fantasy. So really what you're hoping for is 2 to 4 guys in your draft to just make a mess of it. Okay, and it pretty consistently happens where there'll be 2 very below average teams and 2 other teams that just make just absolute bonehead decisions throughout the draft. That means all you have to do is be an average fantasy football player. And we all know, if we're watching me on this channel with 2 subscribers, you're probably a little bit more dedicated to this, to following this than your average person. So going through this draft, a couple pretty smart decisions here. I think the first one I'll stop on is Mr. Deliverance. I can't read. Mr. Deliverance here. He drafted Travis Kelce at 6, which is fine. He got the Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes stack at 19, which I think is fine. And then he takes Calvin Ridley. You know my opinions on Mr. Calvin Ridley. I think I think you're really buying in on best case scenario Calvin Ridley. You're buying him at his ceiling, which is someone who is going to take 6 weeks to get accustomed to the speed of the NFL and start to produce after that. Of course, during the playoff run in your fantasy leagues, that's beneficial too. So Calvin Ridley, I'm not a big fan of there. And then he takes Trevor Lawrence, okay? So he went tight end, quarterback, wide receiver, quarterback. Okay, so he's going 0 RB, which I'm not a big fan of this, especially this year. He doesn't get a running back until Dameon Pierce. So his number 1 running back is Dameon Pierce of Houston. He's not going to score a lot of touchdowns because he plays for Houston, right? He's not going to be very productive, even if he does get that bell cow row there, which, who knows. James Cook, it's fine if James Cook is your 3rd or 4th running back, but you don't really want to start that guy every single week, which is kind of what your mindset has to be when you're going through these drafts. There's really not a lot of upside for James Cook, in my opinion, because number 1, I think we all know who the leading rusher on that team is, and he's not a running back, he plays quarterback, and Josh Allen. They're just a pass-heavy team. Josh Allen's going to score a lot of red zone touchdowns running the ball in. Best ball fantasy, those touchdowns are so valuable. So for that reason, I'm not a big fan of James Cook in general, especially as my number 2 running back. Evan Ingram, so his number 3 running back is all the way down. He even made some decent picks. Chuba Hubbard, Latavius Murray, who I don't even think will make the roster over there in Buffalo. He had to use a 187 draft pick on because he was just so light in that position. So there's one guy who just made an absolute, just dummied up that whole draft for himself. Not a great draft at all. Who else dummied up this draft? Oh yeah, so Mr. Meyer time. Honestly, had a fine start to the draft. CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Travis Etienne. I'm a little bit iffy on Michael Pittman, who's going to be having a guy throw him the football who hasn't thrown a lot of footballs in college, hasn't thrown any footballs in the NFL. We all know how rookie quarterbacks aren't really necessarily going to support top 12 talents at wide receiver. And when you draft a Michael Pittman at 59, you're kind of hoping that his ceiling is wide receiver 1 range, top 12 wide receiver. Treylon Burks, okay, I don't know if he didn't heard the news or whatever, but he's taken Treylon Burks there at 62. Dalvin Cook, the rest of his draft is okay, but again, someone who I would consider would be kind of on the bottom half of this draft, just the way that it fell. Iroh's 11, strategy-wise, I think was fine. He goes wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, which really shoehorns you into forcing yourself into taking running back pretty quick. He takes Najee. Not a big fan of Najee. Like I said, I like his backup a little bit more as a talent, and I don't want Najee Harris as my number 1 running back, no matter what. Just with that offense alone, we got the same offensive coordinator, we got the same quarterback. And I don't think they're gonna be scoring many touchdowns again this season, if I had to guess. Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, Tyler Algier. I like Tyler Algier, but I think that's a really below average draft for Mr. or Mrs. Irohs. Don't mean to assume anything about anybody. So for that reason, I think drafting underdog is a lot more bang for your buck in terms of the expected return. If you're looking to make money off it, which if you're betting money, why wouldn't you? I think it's a great idea to draft there. And it's fun. It really has made my off season getting to or pretty close to the Hall of Fame game here in a couple of weeks, where we're going to be watching players wearing NFL uniforms play a game of football. And I'm very excited about it, but drafting on underdog has really helped me bridge that gap. And you can draft for as low as $3 a draft. You can do as many drafts as you want, because once you draft, you're done for the season. The best team wins in the end, no matter what, because the computer automatically starts your highest scoring players. If you use my username as a promo code, JAMJKSHB, you will get a bonus double match up to $100 for your first deposit. I would recommend putting in all $100 because, let's be honest, you're going to be doing a lot of drafts on this platform. So get the most bang for your buck. I chickened out and started with 50, and honestly, the biggest regret of my whole entire life at this point. If you like this, please subscribe to the channel. It's a very, very new channel, obviously, which in my opinion, if you're wanting to win fantasy football, you don't want to follow the big guys, you want to follow the little guys, because everyone's watching the big guys, right? So you want to get edges where you can, and I think supporting a small channel like mine is a great way to do it. Thank you for watching. This has been What Are We Talking About? A YouTube channel where we talk about NFL. I have been Jamie Jakes. You can follow me on Twitter at JAMJKS, and you can find me on Instagram at DRJamieJakes. Thank you, and good night.